Greetings. Tony Mobley here, Conversations with Tony Mobley. We are live on YouTube and we are in Zoom webinar. And so tonight is a special night. We have an Atlanta, I was going to say an Atlanta native, but we have a very special guest from Atlanta. Yes, sir.
Could you please make Carissa host so she can cut the show?
Absolutely. So we have a lot of special things going on. So I'm going to talk while I do this. So one of the unique things that's going on tonight is that my niece, Carissa Worthy, who is an educator, who is familiar with Zoom, is actually cutting the show tonight. And so this is her first time, and I'm happy to have her. Her uncle had to twist her arm just a little bit, but I'm happy to have her here tonight. And so I'm really excited for her because we've had a lot of conversations about personal, professional development, and I think this is just something that she can put in her wheelhouse to further her career. So real quickly, my name is Tony Mobley, and I am the host of Conversations with Tony Mobley. And we talk about technology for people at any age. And tonight we have a very special guest. We have a lot of special guests, but we have a very special guest, and that is Ms. Liberty White. And so before she comes, I just want to give you a quick summary of why we're here. So why are we here? Short time ago, I had a bout with cancer, and I had an opportunity to participate with a group called Office Hours, which is headed by Alex Lindsay. And it was an extremely positive learning experience for me. And so I decided that I would wanted to share some of the wonderful things that I was learning in Office Hours. And so here we are. And so we'll talk more about that at the end of the show. But I want to get to the meat of our conversation tonight because Liberty has a lot of information to share with us. And so I'm going to just read just a little bit of her background, and then I'm going to let her tell us more about herself, and then we'll get into the questions. Sound good? I hope so. All right. Liberty White is executive director at CHOZEN Media, a boutique of video marketing agency. She can help support technology. She is a native of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Liberty has over 15 years of multimedia experience and co-founder of Atlanta Web Fest, the first web series festival in the Southeast. Liberty has a passion for building interactive experiences with live streaming and digital entertainment to help organizations and branches their audience online. Noted projects include with the WNBA Atlanta Dream, ESPN Celebration Bowl, and the Georgia Council of Developmental Disabilities to drive customers and stakeholders engagement. And this, I think, is of particular interest to some of the panelists tonight. She is a FAA Part 107 certified drone pilot, and Liberty is committed to mentorship and making resources accessible for women in businesses, technology, and media. And her company is chozenmedia.co. And so help me welcome Liberty White. Thank you, Ms. White, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Tony. I am excited about being here tonight with this panel. I love what you've been doing with Tony conversations in the conversations with Tony Mobley and just the opportunities that you are, you're giving to people to hear stories and then to be inspired and to learn something, learn a little something from each other. So we'll have a great conversation. I'm excited about the lab later on as well.
Thank you so much. And so my good friend, Terlock Lopez Waterman, is going to start us off with our questions.
Wonderful. So a quick question for you, Tony. We have Patricia Spencer has raised her hand. I don't know if you would like for me to bring her up, or if we should just have her come next time, or I just wanted to ask.
I don't think Patricia Spencer wants to come on.
Okay.
I think that she was just acknowledging that she's in the room.
Okay. If that changes, let us know. All right. So the first question that has been voted up is, how important is family time to be productive in your business?
Ooh,
and that's from Tony Mo. That's from Tony Mo.
That's a great question, and I think putting that into context. So first of all, it's really important. I am a mom of one dynamic 7-year-old who is she's a fireball of energy. So even if I wanted to be a workaholic and not pay much attention, she wouldn't have it. So family time is important, especially because I want to make sure that she learns balance as well. As she actually sometimes will help me with editing. I remember there was a video I was working on. I've got the big monitor on the side, and she was listening to me go through music, and she was like, "Oh, that one." And I'm learning to listen because, these kids have their ear to the ground, even though she's 7. And I was like, you know what, little girl, you're absolutely correct. So sometimes that helps. So just having that balance of also making time for her is really important. And it helps to recharge. And maybe what I should have done, so forgive me, Tony, is to maybe say a little bit of just like the backstory of how I got here. And especially being a native of a native of a completely different country, a native of Toronto, how do you end up in Atlanta? And so I'm a first generation Canadian, which means my parents are from Jamaica and migrated to Toronto, and with having all of our siblings. And when I look at when going to school, I wanted to be I was deciding between being a nurse, a teacher, or a social worker. And during university, during my 3rd year, I recognized that, wait a second, this was around the time when the internet was around, and I would help friends with different events. And I said, you know what, maybe while I'm at U of T, the University of Toronto, that I can go to college, Humber College, and I'm going to date myself, and I'll see how many people on the panel, macro media, like how far back that is, where that is Flash, that is Dreamweaver. Those are, I see some heads, nods, and smiles there. So the idea was, hey, do that, and then I can do websites on the side while I'm at school. And little did I know just the technology side, how that was going to help me, not only helping me for visa purposes, get when it came time to be in the country, but then even where we are now, because my first job when I say my first job, like an executive role, was actually being the web director at a newspaper. So going from like wanting to be a teacher, which I still see a lot of that, as you'll see when I teach the lab later tonight, like that's still part of my heartbeat. But that these winding roads, how they led me here. And for anyone who's watching live, or possibly when those who are watching on the replay, we're living in a time where, yes, education is extremely important, but how you get the education makes a huge difference. Because even just being here with everyone and being bubbly and energetic and this camera presence, well, I look at that when I was in my late teens, they asked me at church to read the announcements. So, a simple task of reading the announcements at church, because it was an older congregation, and when people would come up to speak, they were kind of monotone. But when I would come up, it'd be like, "Good morning, everyone. I can't hear you." Like, just that energy. And I know there's a question coming up about kids in school, and I'm just trying to tie that into our ability to see what we do naturally and how that can help when it comes to that professional, like when you're deciding career wise, or maybe there's a side hustle that you're looking to start, just how those pieces come together. Now, did I see this? Like they always say, hindsight is 2020. I didn't know any of this, but when I look back in grade 8, I told my dad, "Hey, we need a video camera so we can document my graduation." And like all these like little moments where I was all about trying to capture content. But again, as a first generation, my parents were not in video or film or anything like that. So I didn't necessarily have anyone to navigate me along those lines. But, here I am now. So just putting some of that backstory into context.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next question.
Next question. Sorry, caught me a little off guard there. The next question is, my brother is a middle school STEM teacher and finds it challenging to keep kids engaged. What are some ways he can make hybrid learning fun?
So what we found are, you probably heard this already, but the thinking outside of the box. I think Emily did a great job when she was 2 weeks ago, where she shared things like where you can find programs at your local museum, where there's the idea of helping kids to do things like helping kids to get up and do something, where they can go outside and find I'm trying to find the word right now, but scavenger hunt type of activities. And of course it depends on their age and what you're trying to teach them. But if there's a way to connect like offline or real world activities and merging those into the digital way, that goes a long way, because kids, I mean, they're used to being in front of the screens. So just making sure that I'm all about snackable content, snackable experiences, where you can, keep it short but make it memorable. I hope that helps.
Excellent. Next question.
Next question is from Laura Thompson. What is the best piece of advice or favorite quote that moves you forward?
That would be from my mom. So growing up, I didn't really get the value of it until now, having my own business. And even when we bring on, whether they be interns or other possible contractors, freelancers, but it is, if you can dance a yard, you can dance abroad. And essentially what that is, like what you do at home or what you do in private, that it will also be in public. So if you have great organizational skills, then when you go into the workplace, you'll have great organization skills. If you are miserable, then most likely when you are in public, that'll be the same idea. So I kind of always think about my mom saying that. It's like, okay, so when a problem or a situation comes up, looking at, well, what do we do naturally, and then trying to see how we can get that to emulate into the project or the problem.
Excellent. And I think I have a question that's kind of related to that coming up too. Next question.
Eddie Scott asks, how did you become so accomplished? Did you get a lucky start in life, or bootstrap your own circumstances?
Ooh, that is really good. I'm going to say that it was probably both. And the reason I say that is, starting out with my parents recognizing that where they were, being in Jamaica at that time, that there was greater opportunity for them. My dad went to England first and then came to Canada, and then my mom went directly to Canada. So them just making that decision, I could be a totally different person now if I was born in Jamaica. So just that decision from them there. But then from their decision, that resilience to try things, to experiment, that's where I would say the bootstrapping comes into play. So just when I look at starting a business, when I look at how I got to the US, and that's a story for another conversation, but that was just stepping out and a 36-hour bus ride on the Greyhound to Dallas, Texas. Like, who does that? So just taking those risks, if you want to say, is where I see that as the bootstrapping, and it's paid off because, as many of you on the panel, where we're in a space that you've got to try things and they might not work all the time. So that is where I say that bootstrapping mentality has definitely helped. And as the saying goes, the 10-year overnight success. So that accomplishment took a lot of work.
Fantastic. Next question.
Tony Mobley asks, can Zoom fatigue be defeated?
Ooh, can Zoom fatigue be defeated? I think when we look at the say the office hours community, and even the people who have branched out of office hours and working on projects much like this one, and then also with Sky and Matt in the kitchen, that it can be overcome with great content and solid production. So when you look at making sure that everyone, their audio, well, what is actually happening? Because a lot of times when people are on Zoom, they're on Zoom because they're on meetings and it's meetings back to back to back to back. But if you're looking at Zoom as a interactive platform where we've hosted game nights, we've helped charities with them doing dance-a-thons, like those types of things, because of community, because of, again, going back to the production side of things, the fatigue isn't there. So it can be overcome, but it has to be intentional.
Thank you so much for that. Next question.
John Pewitt asks, what is the biggest change between where you grew up? Excuse me. What is the biggest change between where you grew up and where you are now?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's interesting. I had this conversation with a friend. I just got back from Dallas, which was the first city that I came to in the U.S. And Toronto is a beautiful city. A lot is happening now, but when I look at, for going back to how I was raised, and parents who were had to work so hard to provide for their family, and not necessarily, like, my parents didn't graduate from school. So I'm also the first generation graduate. So taking all of that energy, all of that insight, and then to where I am now, that I can not only help my daughter and just be more attentive to the way that she learns, and then also being being in Atlanta, which has a lot going for it. The city has a lot going for it now, from, as they want us to call it, the Hollywood South. There are a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies are moving here. And so just seeing that, like, timing being everything. So I'm grateful for my childhood because it's helped me with the resilience to, to withstand it taking 10 years to actually make some of the content and work with some of the people that, I've always dreamed of working with.
Thank you so much for that. Next question.
Hasmukh Gajar says, share with us what your company does and which technical tools are key to your enterprise, software or hardware.
Awesome. Well, so I run a video marketing agency. So we work with, primarily our clients are the marketing department, say at a state agency or a boutique PR firm that they might not necessarily have the capabilities in-house. So they contract our team to come in and help them. So we're either helping them with strategy around how they should do a social video campaign, whether that be on the Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn Live, and or we're coming in as their production team for a conference. A lot of what we did last year during COVID was live stream, but also capturing content that they would then send to the event, conference event that they would be being a part of because, as COVID, people weren't traveling. So that's the what we do. And some of the tools that help us to do that are those of the likes of like Frame.io, definitely project management systems like Asana is a big one for us. There's a new one that I'm actually looking at called Hello Bonsai. I see that more so as one that helps you with the client side of it, so that infrastructure for the client, but then also your contractors and freelancers can also be a part of the project management there. So just kind of having all of those tools in one place. From the social media side, I would say things like Hootsuite, Planoly is another one that's more so Facebook and Instagram scheduling. And Sprout Social is a huge one that leans more enterprise. So when we're working more on a long-term contract with, say, a PR firm and just helping their clients schedule out their content. But for those kinds of companies, analytics are huge. So being able to send reports at the end of the week or end of the month, sending them out. So those are just a few of the tools that we use to get the job done.
Wow. 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 um, so for the most part, your marketing is toward corporate clients for the most part. Is that correct?
I would say that corporate or professional organization. So very much B2B,
Okay.
business to business. Sorry, making sure I say out these acronyms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Liberty. Next question.
This is a good one. Eddie Scott says, tell us a disaster story and how much you learned from it.
Ooh, how much time do we have for that, Eddie? Great question. There was, this was in roughly 2012, 2013. We did a live stream for a prominent organization. This was their annual annual fundraiser, but then also they were trying to reach a younger audience. So our team got called in so that we hosted the red carpet for them, but then also live streamed the awards program. And we had done it the year before, great success. The following year, there just seemed to be so much of a breakdown in communication between the production team that we were to work with and then also the organization. So we get there were certain things that were should have been committed to us so that we would have the right spot so that we would be able to shoot accordingly. And even having the red carpet outside, having that set up and where that would be. So I learned, and Alex has said this, I think it was more so on a Sunday, so there's no recording of it, but just the importance of, making sure that you bring your own, even if they say they're going to have something for you, that you have that as well, and yet you have a backup to the backup. And then also making sure, like, triple checking communications, because that middle company that we were working with, I should have noticed, this is the learning lesson, that they weren't really responsive to a lot of the questions, and we kept getting closer and closer to the deadline, to then like the night before having to go down to the hotel at 11 o'clock at night. Just like there was just so much miscommunication. So just the lessons there of just, I think what Alex had said was that they're your friends, but they're not your friends. That was a lesson that I wish, like, that was almost 8 years ago. So hold that one close to the chest. That was a really hard one, but a good one because now I know that what has helped us as a company is that we're the ones that we're on site, that we're also helping the other people that we might be working with, whether they've brought in a photographer and supporting the photographer, or if they've brought in someone else on the team, because we know what it's like to get shafted on a shoot. So, great question there, Eddie Scott.
Yes, thank you, Eddie, for that. And I'm just going to do quickly a few household things. So I want to remind the attendees that you can vote up the questions. And I just want to make sure that we get through all of the questions. So I wanted to give you that opportunity to vote those up. And I also want to share with you guys that my niece, Carissa Worthy, is cutting the show today. And so she is first time cutting the conversation. And I want to thank her formally for doing that. I really appreciate it. And the reason why I mention it is because, and I know that Liberty will embrace this, we want to ensure and encourage people to want to be part of the conversations, and we'll talk more about that later. But we also want to give you an opportunity to learn how to do things. We don't mind failing forward in conversations with Tony Mobley. So I wanted that to be known. And she's doing a great job. I'm looking at YouTube, and it looks really good. You're doing a fantastic job. So I am your uncle, but I want to give you praise because I tell you the other stuff too sometimes, right? And so I wanted to formally just take this time to say thank you so much for cutting the show. It means a lot to me. And I know Liberty doesn't mind me letting you know that as well. And so thank you so much, Carissa.
And Tony, if I can add to just like what you did there for Carissa, and just even how that has impacted, I guess if I go back to a question earlier of just like the question around, was it the hard knocks or not? Like even when I first went to Dallas, or came to the US via Dallas, I went to a journalism program. And now at the time in Toronto, like you only got a scholarship if you had like straight A's, and that was not my story. So if you had straight A's, we didn't really have like sports scholarships or things of that nature when I was growing up, I'll say. And then so when I was in Dallas, I did a journalism program, and some way, somehow, I must have impressed the teacher, the professor there, because when I went back to Toronto to finish school, she would check in on me. And in her check-in, and she's an acclaimed journalist, former president of the Dallas Journalism Network. There's like so much. And to have her check on me, and then at one point I couldn't find a job in Toronto. That was also part of the story of like coming to the States. When she did, I was really proud of myself. I was like, I'm coaching Raptor ball and I'm about to start this magazine. And she said, get your butt back down here. And the reason why this story matters is, and this is, with all of everyone on the panel and those watching, is that when you're able to see something in someone and encourage them, or even comment, like you just saying that right now to Carissa is like, something like a pat on the shoulder for her, and giving her that boost of confidence. Because for me, it was, Cheryl Smith, that mentor, who was like, get your butt back down here. And flew back to Dallas, got a job, and here I am in Atlanta running my own business. So just the importance of mentorship, and the importance of people seeing you, it makes a huge difference.
Well, thank you for that. It's important, and guys, I'm intentionally kind of pushing the questions because we've had conversations where it went over our time that we thought we would go. And so I know that Liberty has a whole lot of things to share with us. And so that's why I'm constantly pushing the questions. And so I'm actually talking now to give my friend a break and get him ready to go to the next question. So I'm getting him a little warm up. So now we're going to go to the next question.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tony. David Brady asked, I have passed up a vertical career growth in favor of learning by sidestepping the path. What is your opinion regarding lateral career moves versus the climb up the ladder?
Ooh, these questions, first of all, these questions are great. And I am probably the wrong person to ask that question because I'm so big on like the non-traditional path less traveled. So if in passing up that vertical move, that you moving laterally helps you build stronger relationships with people. Issa Rae, who she's widely known for having starting doing videos like the series called Awkward Black Girl easily almost a decade ago, and now she's doing shows for HBO and the whole gamut. And she's big on telling people, look at the people to your left and to your right, because those are the people that will help you climb. So in making those lateral moves, I'm all here for it, because that's the future, Zuckerberg, or that's the future whomever. And just having those relationships, especially in the economy that we're in, are important. So again, I said I'm the wrong person to ask that question, because I am all about taking the path less traveled.
Thank you, Liberty. Next question.
Sky Gleason asks, how does community work in your world?
Ooh, I think I need a little bit of clarity, if that's okay, Sky. When you say community, are you referring, like, how are you referring to that
Sky
community
can
from?
clarify in the chat if you.
Yeah, if you can, Sky. So definitely want to address that question, but just trying to get an understanding of what community, because especially as like a content creator, there's that community for the people that you're serving with your information, with your entertainment. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like checking my analytics and checking what that audience. Okay, so Sky's clarifying. He says, do you reach out and rely on others? Yes, Sky. Yes, I do. I do. So community looks like making sure that when possible, that I am there for people, that I am supporting people. A really heartwarming note that I got maybe a couple months ago was with one of the shooters that works with us. And every project, as many of you probably know, every project does not have your dream budget, but depending on the relationship, you say yes or no. So those moments when I say yes, and then I'm pulling the team together and I'm like, okay guys, so this is what they say the budget is. Are you down? And they say yes, but they understand that I honor their gifts, I honor what they do, and that I'm always looking out for them. So he's like, Liberty, you're constantly passing work along. So community for me is making sure that I'm looking out for my team, and that I make sure they don't get disrespected, because sometimes that happens when you're on set or when you're on shoot. So yes, I rely on others, and I make sure that they know that I'm genuine in whatever the ask is.
And I just want to add that Liberty was responsible for taking care of the Mad in the Kitchen Atlanta shoot, the last episodes of Mad in the Kitchen. Liberty was the one that was actually providing the video for the special guest chef. And it was the last episode of Mad in the Kitchen that was she took care of that for Mad in the Kitchen. And so that is a sense of community. Now, the show is based in Seattle, Washington, and Liberty managed the guest chef here in Atlanta. And so that is also a form of community outreach. The fact that she did that and she was able to help that show. And so I again want to say thank you for that, because that was a learning experience for all of us. And you did us all proud with the job that you did. And I know that I know if Sky was on the panel, he would also thank you so much for what you did, because it looked really good. And so thank you again for that. And we're
Yeah,
going to
and
go to the
Sky's I see the caps coming up on the screen behind me. Sky's co-signing there. And to just tie a bow on that community piece, well, when Sky called you, Tony, and you mentioned me, so just that whole relationship building and having that ecosystem of people that you can it's not every call is not going to be about a job, and that is okay. But then for people who can say, you might want to check on this person, it makes a huge difference.
next question.
Hasmukh Gajar says, I see you as a panelist on office hours. How has office hours impacted your business or your personal or you personally? Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for that, Hasmuk. I think, as with all of us, that it has leveled up our game, because as much as we create so much content for others, when it comes to myself, I would rather just like, I'd rather be producing than necessarily being out there. So it's definitely forced me to ensure that I have succinct answers, that just getting my hands on the gear, more so than just because what I do is I tinker a lot with gadgets, but actually working on the workflow for myself and not necessarily with a team. So it's helped definitely from that regards. And also just finding a community that a lot of the dreams or things that I've thought about in the past, that there are people who've done it. So an idea about how to do a certain type of red carpet. Oh my goodness, this person has done that. How to do an interactive food show. Oh my goodness, Sky is doing that. So just putting and this from a global perspective. So just having people that are innovative, and that you're no longer the smartest person in the room, which is a great place to be. So it's definitely changed by having that community to just bounce ideas off, and such a warm and giving community. I definitely hats off to Alex Lindsay for this.
And I just want to say, Hasmok, thank you for the question. And Hasmok is coming in from Cape Town, South Africa, and it's 3:36 in the morning, um, and he's here with us. And so, thank you, sir. He was my first guest. This is episode 4, and he's still supporting us. So, thank you so much, Hasmok. Next question.
How did you get involved? I'm sorry. John Pewitt asks, how did you get involved with office hours?
Oh, yes, there was Colin Sandy. I owe him a gift card. He messaged me sometime last year. I think I've already passed my office hours anniversary, being when I first watched the show was in June. And he messaged me, and he's out in DC. And he said, I think you should check this out, because you could add a lot of value and insight. And I was one of those long time, because I didn't come on office hours until probably February, sometime then. So I was a long time lurker, like many people who might be watching Tony's show right now. So yeah, it was a friend who mentioned it to me, and I've been listening since last June, and now being more active in the community.
And I'm going to say, guys, I really need you to vote up the questions. The questions are growing, and we have about 22 minutes left. So please vote up those questions. Next question.
John Pewitt asks, tell us a success that surprised you. Love that question.
That is a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that, of a success that surprised me. So I'm going to defer defer back to that. So the story that I told of like what didn't work for that red carpet. Well, the year before it did work, and it was fantastic. So it was, what we did was, for their award show, we came in with like a full out production team, meaning we sourced the host, the talent that would do the red carpet. We had someone else, and this is 2012. So we were doing like Twitter. We had like a dedicated host for social media and another dedicated host on the red carpet, and then a host that was roaming inside the award show. So during breaks for the awards, when people were eating dinner or whatnot, we had a host going around to the tables and asking questions. So they were blown away because, it's one thing to have a vision in your head, but then to actually have that manifest, that sometimes it doesn't always work out. So that was huge because it was validating that all these years of watching red carpets and taking notes and thinking about different ways of doing things, that it's value, that people find value in that. So I would say that would be a success that was surprising.
Next question.
Corrine Worthy asks, what do you use to measure your success?
Oh, that's a good one too. So when I look at our success, I look at a couple of things. I look at specifically how did we make the client feel, because as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we work really with under resourced and stressed marketing directors or their team. So when we come in and we are able to alleviate that stress and not only provide them with the metrics that they need, whether that be the content, whether that be the impressions that they're looking for their content, but to me, success is really when they say, like, we didn't have to we have clients that don't even show up to anymore because they know that our team has it under control. So those are just the things that I look at, of like, how did we make people feel, and also how did our team feel walking away from the project. So those are just a couple of ways that I look at success.
Wow, thank you for that. And I'm going to say real quickly, I have to acknowledge that question came from Carissa's mom. And I want to say formally to her, thank you for sharing Carissa with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next question.
Sky Gleason asks, do you consider yourself an artist or a craftsperson?
Oh, both. At times I have the hat on, as an entrepreneur, and I'll switch the words just a little bit, but as an entrepreneur, you definitely are about the business. So some of those, if you even heard when I answered the question about the tools, I gave you like the creative tools, but then also the tactical ones of how to manage the team and how to handle workflow and invoicing. So there's that side of my brain that operates, but then there's the creative side of how to, how do we make this content? I like to say there's two ways I say it. How do we make the content sing, or is it sexy? So hopefully those are safe words to say, but that creative side to make sure that it's engaging. So I consider myself both. It just depends on what the project is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Next question.
Hasmukh Gajar asks, gender bias continues to be a challenge. Have you experienced any challenges in this regard from any of your clients?
Well, Hasmukh, great question. Yes, and yes. And I actually should say not the clients, but possibly the people on site. A great example is there was a stream we did a couple years ago, and we hadn't necessarily met one of these. Either it was a speaker or someone with the team who was speaking, and they came up, and it was myself and another shooter. So I was the tech, so running the board, and the other person was the shooter. And the gentleman in question after the event came up and thanked the male person on the shoot. And I love my team because he said, actually, you need to talk to her over there. So, they get it, and he, he apologized, or well, I shouldn't say apologize, but he, acknowledged me. So, I mean, that happens a lot, because how often do you see a woman behind the board or switching or doing anything like that? So, it does happen. You kind of have to recognize that this is a part of the lay of the land, and either you're gonna make it, you know cause havoc, and I know that people leave the industry for these kind of things, or you just take it with a grain of salt and you keep crushing it, and I choose to keep crushing it.
Fantastic. Wow. Uh, next question.
Late to the show. Sorry, Mark Horner says late to the show, but happy to be here.
Hey, Mark. Glad you're here.
And next question is there a story behind your parents' decisions to name you Liberty? Cool name.
I would say that no, not I don't think there really is a story. Besides, it was actually my name, like that part of my name was like when I came to Dallas. And that was just Dallas was the early years of Dallas was really hard. So I just started to use Liberty more so than so my first name is Natalie. So if anyone who follows me on LinkedIn, it's N Liberty White. So that would be the story behind Liberty and Liberty White.
Fantastic. It gives you distinction too. Next question.
David Brady asks, from Ray Maxwell, what kind of project did you use your drone skills on?
Oh, I wish I had set this up better. I should have, Ray, especially since you asked me that. But really, so there are I would say two types of projects when doing drones. So one, I find droning really cathartic and just like relaxing. So there's that part of it. But then doing more so like documentary type of content. So when John Lewis passed last year, and he's the famous civil rights person in Atlanta. So we went down and covered it with news. So, and then we got requests for like those kind of clips. So I also have a little bit of a news background. So the drone footage, looking at that for, breaking news, of course, stock photographers, like stock video. So that's where the drone skills come in.
Are there other drone uses that you have in your video production business? Are there other situations where you use the drones?
Mainly, yeah. I mean, it's when you think about drone, and I'm very much a like project based when doing it. So it's like, okay, we know that we need these skyline shots because they'll help in a future project for B-roll or for establishing shots, and or well, yeah, those being primarily, and then again stock. So because you can also get paid licensing off of stock footage as well. So those would be the
Wow.
primary. But then there are people out there who, you see a lot of wedding photo. I'm not a wedding photographer, a videographer at all, but they use that to add, a little je ne sais quoi in their productions. So those are just some other use cases. And then to be very tactical with it, there are people like construction sites that need drone footage for surveying or documenting, just documenting the progress of the site. So there's those components to it as well.
Okay, so I'm going to stop for just a quick second. So I see that we still have 8 questions left. And I wanted to ask Liberty, how much time do you need for your lab?
Well, we might even vote on it and see. So I was just going to do a quick lab of like how to do an Instagram reel. We don't have to do the lab
Yes, we
I
do.
saw some up. Okay.
Yes, we do. Yes,
Okay.
yes, we do.
Okay, so I will try my best to zip. I'll do this. I hear Alex's voice in my head saying like quick, or fast, or however he says that, of like saying the answer. So I'll do my best to get through the answers really quickly.
Okay.
Oh, and
All right.
probably like 5 minutes, even that, like I'll just go through it really quickly, the lab.
Okay. All right, next question.
Hasmukh Gajar asks, are your parents or elders in the family tech savvy? How do you assist or support them?
I am tech support in the family. And so during COVID and even to this day, that my mom will call and I will help her to get on the church service. So it is being on the call and being very patient. So um, sorry, I don't know if I answered that correctly because I was just envisioning my mom on Sunday calling to calling to get help. So it's just a lot of patience, just a lot of patience.
Next question.
John Idelson would like to ask Liberty, what is the middle creative community? Sorry, what is the media creative community like in Atlanta?
Oh, yes. It's very vibrant, very vibrant. So you have all the way from the professional side. And if we speak like the media creative arts, you've got that the arts community, you've got people who, a lot of independent video YouTubers. There was a recent article in, I have to find it. I want to say it was the Washington Post, just talking about there's a TikTok house, is what they call it, where there are content creators and they spend their time creating TikTok videos. So really, Atlanta runs the gamut because we also have the Tyler Perry studio, we have Gem Screens, there Pinewood. So it really it goes from A to Z. And it's extremely vibrant, especially since, and I used to work for the state for a little while. So I worked for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. And that's around the time when those tax credits came into play. And so that is something that helped to boost not only the film side, but then now you see the esports side that is growing. You see there are a lot of animation studios as well. And not to mention, we also have, CNN, Turner Broadcast, and they have great legacy in Atlanta as well.
Thank you. Next question. Thank you, John, for that question.
So the next question comes from Tony Mobley. And actually, we don't have any more questions that are voted up at this point. So I don't know where you want to go, Tony. So this question is, are we marking ourselves when we turn on our camera? I don't quite, sorry, go ahead. You know what you wanted to ask?
The question was, when we turn our camera on, are we actually marketing who we are?
Yes. Every time you every time you send a tweet, every time you you write a comment on a social media post, because people spend more time in the comments too after they've watched whatever the content is. So every time you show up outside of outside of your home digitally, you're marketing yourself. So whether that be what you say, whether that be how you look, that is your brand. It's your brand is not what you say about yourself, it's what people say about you. So you are constantly, so that's just something to keep in mind of when you are responding. Like, sure, you might want to jump in on a certain discussion, but there's a paper trail, there's a digital footprint that comes with that discussion. And especially in just speaking to those that may be younger, just looking for a job now, employers, they're scouring. Like, even when we're hiring, I am going to look at your LinkedIn, I'm looking at your portfolio, I'm looking at the kind of content that you share, because ultimately when you come on set with us, you represent our company. So every time you turn on, you write a comment online, you are leaving breadcrumbs for people to find you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to the lab. And I apologize for those questions that did not get answered. But we're going to do the lab. And then, we're going to do the lab.
Okay.
Thank you, Liberty.
Thank you. So what I thought I would do, and let's hope this works out here, and hopefully everyone can see it, or not, if it can be pinned. So this, I'm in Instagram, and for those of you who are, and you know what, I'm sorry, let me cut to this super quickly. I'm just going to scrub through kind of like just this. I wanted to start with just the idea of, when it comes to content, what because a lot of people get overwhelmed when it comes to trying to create content. And so we've come up with a quick methodology of just how to think about it being cedar to grow your content. So think about your content, think about your equipment, think about where you're going to put it, think about how you're going to measure the success of your content, and then repeat. Do that all over again. And what I want to do is skip through all of this and for the Instagram reel that I'm going to show you just super quickly. These are just some of the things that when you are, especially from a professional standpoint, that you're going to put snackable. And when I say snackable, that is content that is usually under 120 seconds, under 2 minutes, ideally, depending on the platform, whether that be 15, 30 seconds. That's a great sweet spot. And just really depending on what you're saying. So you want to make sure, well, what's the story you're telling or the message that you're trying to communicate? Making sure that your quality is on point, whether that be camera, whether it be the images that you use, whether it be the B-roll, and especially the usability. So when you are creating content, especially for social media, most people are watching your content or scrolling by your content without the sound on. So captions are a bonus. And if they like it, they'll probably watch it again with the sound on, but you just don't want to miss an opportunity to connect with your audience. So just making sure you have captions, some sort of text, and making sure you have the right aspect ratio, because there are times that organizations will hear them say, okay, we're going to create this one video and we're just going to put it everywhere, but that video is like a 1080 by 1080 and it's the square size for Instagram. Well, that's not going to show up right on Twitter or Facebook. So those, just those minute details that they seem like you're nitpicking, but it's about your end user, like who's watching, and making sure that the view it's easy for them to consume your content. And I touched on the production length, and then having a call to action. Lots of times people will spend money on a video, spend the time and the effort, but what do you want people to do? Did you tell them to call a phone number, to text you, to DM, or what is the call to action that you want them to do? And Laura just chimed in and saying, and then captions are also an equity thing as well, and they are for a
Yes, they are.
community as well. So thank you for that, Laura. And so when you're looking at making a reel, and much of this is similar to TikTok, but I'm going to focus on reels because that's personally what I spend more time on, making reels, because I think they're quick and easy to do. But if you're trying to, let's say, get visible, that you're looking at using trending music or trending audio. And as I said before, using text when possible. Keep it short. If for some reason you come up with a masterful idea to talk about, I'm going to use you for a moment, John, to talk about Dungeon and Dragons, and you might be showing the how to get started, and that video ends up that you're talking for like 3 minutes. Hey, how about we break that down into 360 seconds, or maybe like 30, 45 seconds a piece? And now guess what? You've got content for possibly 4 weeks that you don't have to worry about. So, that's why I really emphasize the snackable content, because unless you're producing a podcast, a video podcast where people are really committed and spending time, when you're doing it for social media, it is the highlight reels. That's what people really care about. You're using social for like the highlight reel to drive them to, they're gonna let's say they're gonna chew on a lot more of your short content to lead up to your long form or your larger content, if that be the case. And then the bonus part, make sure to go back and look at your analytics, because it's all fun to like create the content, but if you're a business, the question is always the ROI, the return on investment. So I am going to now come over to my Instagram here, and hopefully this comes up. Okay, cool. So I'm going to kind of use this to help along. So I opened up Instagram, and I'm going to hit my profile down here, and up here where you see these 3 lines at the top, that is going to take you to what I've done. Oh, you know what? Let me take one quick step back, because some people might not even know what a reel is. And I'll show you this example of one that I did I think I posted this one yesterday, and it was just some pieces of B-roll of me making vegetables for the barbecue earlier this week. And you're not going to hear the music, but as you see, it is roughly 15 seconds, kept it really simple, had some text on it, just said, hey, I seasoned it, I wrapped it in the foil, and I put it on the grill, and man, it was delicious. Quick, easy, to the point. So what you want to do is those three dots at the top is click there. And I'm big on saving audio. Whenever I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'll find catchy music, or I might find something that somebody said that was pretty cool. And I'm going to then come down here where it says saved and click there. And so those are all like just saved posts that I have all over. But right here is where it says audio. So I'm going to click on audio, and I know in advance that I like this song, so I'm gonna click that right there. And as you'll see at the bottom here, it says use audio. But not only does it say use audio, it shows how many people right here at the top. 40,000 people have created this, like use this music to create this reel. I would say that's pretty popular. So, usually on these platforms, when music or sound bites are trending, that will help you to help your reel to then be seen as well. Because, you know, that's the algorithm. The algorithm is all about wanting people to scroll and stay on, you know, content longer. So, what I will then do is come down here where it says use audio, click there, and hey everyone. So I will click over here on the bottom, and that takes me to my camera roll. And I'm gonna go to my favorites because I've already pre-selected, and I'm just gonna do another version of exactly what I did yesterday. So you'll just see that I have a whole bunch of like B-roll elements here. And what you want to do as well, depending on what kind of content or what kind of reel that you're gonna create, is either have some good movement in your shot. So let's see if I can find an example of that. So you know, I'm just zoomed out of the foil package there. I'm big on time lapses, so I like those. I think they bring a certain energy to your reel. So that was just put the camera up while I'm rolling it there, and then you know the final product. So what you want to do is pick your elements, and going back to the idea of storytelling. So what did we do first? Oh, I think I did not save it here, so forgive me that I didn't. So maybe I'll start with this, the salmon. Well, that's not moving. I don't want to start with that. Let's say we'll start with washing some of the vegetables. Alrighty, so I'll make that short, and I won't be able to hear the audio here, but you do want to cut to the music. Little slow-mo action there. That took a little too long, so I'll cut this down a little bit. So, okay. Oh, look at that. Look at those vegetables. They look delicious. Put that there. Let's get, oh, that took too much. So as you see there, that took too much time. So I'm going to crop that, and I'll probably crop it even more here. I will warn you, this is probably not going to be my best reel, but just to show you it in action. So we've got the vegetables there. Maybe there's a good opportunity to then go back here. Maybe we'll bring the foil one. No, I wanted the time lapse one. Let's bring that into the mix. Add that, and then I'll maybe add one more, maybe two more, actually putting it on the grill. And the last one being actually looking at the food. So as I said before, just fundamental storytelling there. And now what you're able to do is see this in action. Of course, you'll time it better to, we can't hear the sound right now, but when you get an opportunity to do it, you will, you know, if there's a downbeat, put your cut on the downbeat or whatever your flavor is. What you're also able to do is add text. So if you see, I went up to the top there. So you've got some other features at the top here. I'll go and I'll add this, let's say, conversations in the kitchen. A little augmenting to your show, Tony, just for the sake of this reel. Then you have an opportunity to change down here at the bottom. You can, oops, let's get back to the text. You can change the style of your text. And if you are trying to brand yourself and you want to, like, there's a certain text that you use for, for unboxing videos, there's a certain kind of text or color, you can make those edits here. So I have that. Now, something that is, I think it takes people a little bit of adjusting to, is that when I click on at the bottom here where it says the CONV, where you start, that is what adjusts how long that text shows up on screen. So if I were to click done here, and I'm going to say, I'm going to save this because sometimes Instagram is not my friend. I just quickly went into my draft. So then if I bring this back out and I go to look at it, then boom, that text pops up. But if I want to change how long that text is on the screen, then there it is that I've just extended it. And I won't do anything more to it right now because this was really like a legitimate crash course in doing an Instagram reel. Some people, they edit reels in it, they edit it in advance, bring it in, and then add text to it. That's a way, if you're more comfortable with say editing on your phone or editing on your laptop, that you then bring it in, and then in adding some text, the Instagram knows you didn't just upload a pre-produced video file. I don't know how the algorithm is so ingenious, but they've got that figured out. I want to hit next. And another way to just kind of add a little pizzazz, this image here is what your audience will see. So is that enticing? It doesn't really say a lot. There's a brown thing because we can't identify it at the top, and then some food at the bottom. What's a better shot? That is so. Maybe that. I don't think I have too many great shots here. Maybe this one being a little bit better. Or let's just do that. I'm gonna try that for now. You also have the option.
I like the one with the smoke coming off the grill.
The smoke coming. Okay, thank you. There we go. Oh, there's the bowl. Okay, yes. Thank you, Talak. There we go. And if you want, and again, going back to your whole keeping your brand cohesive, you can actually click here at the bottom and add a graphic. So if there's a graphic that you have that you want to add because you've already edited it and saved it to your phone, then you can upload it and it might have the gorgeous text for your audience to see. But once you've got that, you adjust your cover and you saying, hey, you can put your caption. Great. Show all. Oops. And then you're good to go. So I can either have this show up in my profile, or I can have this show up in my stories. And for the sake of this, I am going to have it show up in my stories. Once I hit done and I go to my stories, it's probably still uploading. So there we go. In my stories right now, if anyone came, I have no idea what it sounds like. So after the show, I'm going to go and listen to it. But, there it is for my, those that follow me, for my community to see. So that is how did we do? Was that 10 minutes, 10 minutes, Instagram Reels? So there it is. So hopefully you guys try it out.
Tony, you're muted. I don't know if you realize.
I am just shouting and celebrating. What a great job. Fantastic lab. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
People will be able to go back to this and review it. And so thank you so much for this lab. This is fantastic. This is what we want. This is what we want. We want something that the person watching this, listening to this, can take this and apply it to their lives. How many young people are using, or they don't say Instagram, they say Gram, And so this is wonderful. This is just what I wanted. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're
I'm
welcome.
going, wow, 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 wow. And I know that's redundant, but wow, wow. Thank you, Liberty. And you know what? It's amazing. I knew it was going to be like this because I knew that you were going to bring it. So thank you, Liberty. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Where we are is that I'm going to allow the panelists just a quick word because I want to honor the fact that you have come, but I also want to say that it's important that because Liberty has given of her time, that we be respectful. And we're going to do something after, and I'll get to it in just a minute. But I really, really want to thank you, Liberty, so much for doing this. And if you raise your hands on the panel, we will recognize you. And I'm going to ask you to try to be brief. I know that with everything she shared, it's going to be difficult. John.
Liberty, the last hour has just been incredible. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Yes, William.
Thank you, Liberty. It's been spectacular. It really has. One hint, making use of experiences that we've had. I've had to do tech support for my family members as well. And yeah, what I found
think all of us, William.
I found a way of really making use of it. When I get called by a scammer who says, I'm from so-and-so support and you have a virus and we've been notified, I start channeling my parents.
Very good. Very good.
Very
David.
smart. I like that, William.
Go ahead, David.
Thanks very much for the IG instructional thing. I've never really leveraged the gram for anything beyond like a few capturing of moments to share with friends and family, but I might kick it up a notch. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like there are people that, they're able to use IG and they're just talking heads, but they make sure back to the video marketing aspect, they're sharing value. So if it's a matter of sharing some tips or sharing the day in the life of like those kinds of, again, snackable content work really well for that platform. Everything does not have to be music and dancing. It could just be a series of, hey, look what I made. And people are like, wow, what did you use? There's something for everyone.
And everybody likes snacks.
Talak.
Thank you so much, Liberty. You're an inspiration, and I really appreciate getting to learn from you tonight. And absolutely had no idea about the whole IG thing. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You could definitely, I can see a lot of use cases, just for even the productions that you work on, as it is, people are in love with the behind the scenes and like how things work. So that's a great way to, create some of that content and leverage the hashtags to find other community members that are on IG or the gram, as Tony said.
Fascinating.
Go ahead, Ray.
Well, I want to congratulate you, Liberty. You did a fantastic job tonight.
Absolutely.
And coming from Toronto, I want to congratulate you on being bilingual in both Canadian and American, A to Z.
There it is. Oui, mais je parle un petit peu de français as well.
Fantastic. Yes, Chris.
Bone. It was wonderful to meet you, and I really feel I did meet you, and that's a high compliment.
Thank you.
I also want to circle back to early in the hour when you talked about the importance of mentoring, and I think you put it out there from the point of view of someone who had benefited from good mentoring. I just wanted to shine a light on the fact that mentoring works in both directions when it's good. The mentor receives benefit as well and learns things from the mentee as well as vice versa. So I call that reciprocal mentoring, and it's always there. But if we can be more conscious of it, I think more of it will happen. Thanks again.
Agreed.
Thank
Great
you,
point.
Chris.
Great point.
Thank you, Chris. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, so thank you, Chris. So we are about to end YouTube, but we're not going to end it yet. And so I want to give special thanks to the global family and friends who are here, to Alex Lindsay and the office hours members, the DVE store who powers this Zoom webinar, Video 360, Webcam 3C 4K, which I'm using, Mr. Ken Jordan, Elms Park. Check him out. He's awesome. Next week, next Wednesday, Dr. Chris Clark, who just spoke, will be here next Wednesday. Yes, be here, be here. And so the final thing that I want to share with you is that we're going to start trying to do something new. This is something new. So from now on, when this event ends, we are going to move to, we're going to stay here. But what we want to do is to invite those of you who are in the panel, those of you who are attending, those of you who are watching on YouTube. We want to invite you to come into this meeting. And we're going to continue interacting with each other. And right now, what we're going to call it is the CWTM Community Fellowship Hour. And so, Liberty, I'm not going to ask you to stay. If you can stay, fantastic. And what we want is those of you who want to be on the panel next week, or you want to learn about using your microphone, or you just want to talk. We only come together once a week. We're not like office hours where they meet every day. So we only come together once a week. And so we're going to just take some time to have additional conversation. YouTube is off, relax, come in, interact. And so that's what we're going to do. And so if we can post the link to the webinar for those people who might be watching on YouTube, let's try to do that.
I'll work on that right now.
Okay. And so that is it. Again, wow. Liberty, thank you so much. Panel, thank you so much. People, attendees, thank you for your questions. I apologize for not getting to all of the questions, but I think that we did a good job of getting to the ones that were helpful. And so that's what we're here to do. This conversation moment is about helping. That's what it's all about. It's about helping. And so I'm going to ask Carissa, since she is the host, thank you again, Carissa, to end YouTube, but we are still in the meeting. And those people who are attendees that would like to come on camera, please do so at this time. Raise your digital hand.